Welcome to the penultimate session, very sad, of the weekend here at W.A.S.D in the PCGamesN Theatre. So the topic of today's panel is you've got a great game idea, what next? Basically, as you'd expect, how to realize your game idea, how to make it successful, how to get it in front of people. And we've got a great panel to talk about this, loads of expertise here. I'm going to ask our panelists, if I may, to introduce yourselves. Just start with your name, your pronouns, your where you're working, and a brief sort of summary of your career to date and your expertise. Can we start from my left, please?
Hello, my name is Andres Martin, pronouns he, him. I work at Auroch Digital as a senior programmer, currently working day-to-day on a lot of the art technical programming side of a game we're working on called Brewmaster. It's a brewing simulation game.
Awesome.
Am I good? Yeah, I'm all good. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Campbell. I'm CTO of Orthors. We run our own gaming company, me and two of my friends. And currently, we've got games up on our own store where we're allowed to publish our own games. Our backgrounds, or should I say my background is in graphic design, so we've come into gaming industry from like a completely different angle. So it's been like a really cool journey, but yeah, that's where we're at so far.
And Tom.
Hello, everyone. I can't believe you invited me back after yesterday. Big mistake. My name's Tom. I'm the community manager for a company called Into Games. We're a not-for-profit career service for the UK, helping people find rewarding careers in the games industry. My personal background is I've studied game design for about 5 years across college and university. Although I've said I'm working for Into Games, in like 2 weeks' time, I'm going to go on to work for Creative Assembly. So hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much.
Congratulations. Lovely, great stuff, guys. So we'll get into some like particular scenarios, I guess, and like some, break it all down and go into a little bit more detail in just a second. But I thought it might be nice to start with just one top tip, effectively, from each of you about, once someone has a great game idea, what is the next thing they should do next? Nice and open. Would like to jump in?
Well, for me, coming from a graphic design background, not knowing anything about like kind of the gaming industry because we didn't go through a kind of that uni process, I would say just get stuck in. Use YouTube, use Google. Like just get stuck in. Don't think about it. Don't think, it's too complicated. Just start straight away, and once you've started, fail fast. That's what I'd say.
I would agree with that as well. You really just want to get started because there's so many good ideas in the games industry, and 90% of them don't go anywhere because they just stay at the idea stage and don't go any further. So you really just want to immediately start learning new skills. Bring it to a game jam. Talk to your friends about it. Don't be precious about it. Be aware that it's going to change and morph as you work on it, and just be okay with that, and just really hit the ground running.
Nice.
I think mine is before you even get to that stage where you start to work on it, I just write everything down. All the game developers that I know have journals or notebooks or something where they're constantly writing ideas. Like you've woken up in the middle of the night, gone, oh cool, that's a really, really great idea for a game. Write it down, and then iterate on it from there. I think a while back I woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, feverishly wrote down a game idea. The next morning it said Canal Barge Battle Royale, which I immediately went, why did I do that? But it gets you thinking, those classic era of on-rail shooters where you're traveling in a straight line, Canal Barge, you could definitely do that. And then maybe some World War thing, I don't know where you could go with that, but just write everything down because it really helps your initial iteration process and to build on that first idea.
Yeah, I've heard that in different contexts as well. Creativity and bright ideas come from so many places that we're not expecting. It's a shower thought. It's when you're not thinking of anything in particular before you're falling asleep at night, and having a plan to write it all down. Okay, so there's that, and there's the tip of going ahead and actually starting to make the thing. So let's drill into that a little bit. How do we make the thing? And there's lots of different disciplines within game creation, design, art, programming, etc. what is the, like, once we've sort of decided upon that, like, how do we actually start putting something together? Should you start specializing immediately? Presumably not if you actually want to, like, create the thing, because you'll have to learn multiple things. Like, what are the resources that people can go to learn all of that? What software packages would you maybe recommend for them to grab hold of and start using? Yeah, like, how do you want to approach that next stage?
I would say don't worry too much about the specific tools you're going to use, because the important part is learning the process and learning how to learn. Like, I personally didn't come from a games industry background. I came from a medical industry background, and then I switched into the games industry. And even though I didn't have that background, picking up, game-specific programming ideas and tools and engines came really naturally to me, because at the end of the day, it's all just programming. And I know, like, a lot of art is very similar, where it's just like, as long as you know the fundamentals, as long as you know how to learn, you're fine. So don't worry too much about the specifics. Just pick something and go, and if it's the wrong thing, you could always change it.
Cool. Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. And I remember when I started, it was a lot of, like, YouTube, and even recently, to up, like, my skills, I was going on Code Academy and just diving into different tools where you can just learn new things. And as you were saying, like, it's not about being rigid about, like, I need to use Unity. Kind of use whatever interests you, and that will get you in. And then once you're in, you can kind of maneuver around. And I've got, like, a really good friend who's really good at programming. One thing he told me was, like, Google and YouTube are all good, but make sure you get the books, because they teach you, like, the fundamental stuff, which I'm, like, starting to learn now. So even though we've put out games, if I was to go for, like, a job interview or something, I most probably wouldn't be able to get it, because I don't know, like, the actual fundamentals. And those things is what, when you're reading the books, they teach you. And if you look on, like, online and you follow, like, a Unity index or something where they try and explain what variables are, it's like some really complicated term, but then in the book they kind of break it down, and then it's just like, I actually understand what it means. So definitely getting books as well, I think is really, really good.
Cool.
Yeah, covered a lot of the bases. That's the problem with going third, I guess. But I had a really good point a second ago, and it's just absolutely dropping from my brain suddenly. That was it. You're going to be wearing a lot of hats. So realistically, in, like, a kind of smaller team, we've talked a little bit about, like you're going to be hitting the ground running, going very fast. If you're in a smaller team, you've just come up with a game idea with a bunch of mates, you're going to be doing more than one thing at once. You're not a big AAA studio where there's one person whose whole job is to make just the rocks. Last time I worked in a team project with a bunch of mates, I was doing the art and the animation and the audio and the narrative, and all at once. So I think doing stuff like that really helps whittle down what you want to do, especially trying a lot of other things as well. But just be prepared to wear a lot of hats, as the phrase goes.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, you hear that when you learn a language, like a verbal language, the second one that you learn is that much easier, because you can sort of see the underlying principles. And it sounds like you guys are saying it's pretty similar, like people shouldn't sweat, learning a particular package or something. As long as you have, like, that underlying competency, you can switch to something else fairly easily. And then that's what a game studio, if you want to go that route rather than making something, is looking for, right?
Yeah,
you can specialize later down the line, but I think a lot of the joy of, like, early game development is just going, hey, this is a really cool idea. Like, what is stopping us from making it? Just look up a tutorial on YouTube. Like, and there's so much amazing content out there. If you want to program, Unity is free. If you want to do art, you can't afford Photoshop, GIMP's free. If you want to do audio, there's Reaper. Like, there's so many free and really good, like, industry standard tools out there that you can just, like, pick up and go with.
And I kind of want to sort of echo what Tom said earlier, which was you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. Like, if you're working in a small company, like, okay, your specialty might be the art technical side, but that's not all you're going to be doing. You're going to be asked, like, one day something's going to break, and you're going to be the only one with time to fix it. So you're going to fix it even if it's not your field, right? Because it's a small team. And not only that, but it's really important to learn a little bit of other fields too, because you're going to be talking with other people. Like, you're going to be talking with designers, with artists, with other people that are not necessarily your field, and you have to understand what they are saying and how to talk to them, and vice versa. So it's really important to, like, at least have a very basic understanding of kind of what the other, what they're doing, what their specialty is.
That's cool. I mean, it's good to hear. I mean, I actually, thought about something. It's good to hear that, people have permission to, go out there and actually rather than being paralyzed by, a choice of what the next step is or the software to learn. Someone mentioned game jams. I know that, that's come up a lot whenever I've been speaking to developers. A great way to get started. For anyone who, is super young and just sort of starting out on all of this, explain maybe a little bit about what exactly a game jam is, where you can find game jams to go and attend, and what the value what the value of them is.
I'll start because I've never actually went to a game jam, but I do know places to find them. I think on, what's the website? Itch.io. They usually have a lot of game jams on there. You can just go, you can go and sign up, and I'll let you two take it away because I don't want to speak for what I haven't experienced. But yeah, I know Itch.io, there's lots of game jams on there. Cool.
I mean, the answer is everywhere. There's game jams everywhere constantly. Just look, Google and you'll find entire lists. There's entire websites dedicated to just aggregating lists of game jams. There's organizations you can look into, like Limit Break is a mentorship organization that you can look into that helps people who are new into the industry. There's Game Industry Gathering. There's so many industries that throw their own game jams as well. Really just look at the resources and don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to send an email. People, love to see people trying to break in. Like that, people are trying to help you. People are not trying to keep you out. So for sure, just reach out and you'll find them everywhere.
Awesome. That's cool. So there are sort of other routes in. I mean, qualifications is one option. What should people know if they want to pursue a qualification?
Well, I've got a really good one to start.
Yeah.
Don't go to a university that doesn't do talks and doesn't give you any contacts coming out, because I think some of the most important things you will learn from studying games at a degree level is making connections and being out, doing game jams, meeting people on the course who you might work with later down the line. And if you pick a university that maybe doesn't do anything like that, you're going to miss out on a lot of it. I came out of uni with no connections, and I've been chatting to other people in the industry, and they've said they picked their universities solely because they researched first and went, okay, they've done a load of talks, they've got a load of industry people in, they've met loads of people. I think that's super important. I know you said that having a degree is quite important these days in the whole pipeline of getting into the games industry, but I think one of the joys of the industry is you can learn so much of it, just at home through tutorials and online. It's very, very accessible, very entry. You can get into it at an entry level quite easily. What you get from university is the whole life stuff, how to be an adult, how to you learn a load of social skills, by going out to parties and stuff. You learn to network properly, and yeah, I think more the social elements and the teamwork is what is the most important thing to me coming out of university. Really help building those skills, but just to go back to that first bit, just make sure it's the right uni first.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as though with so many options for people who are who want to actually start working on their game, the pressure, I guess, on universities to offer value above and beyond that is that much greater.
Yeah.
In terms of, aside from the social stuff and the learning to be an adult, do you think there are some courses out there which can offer that real value?
Yeah, absolutely. Even though mine wasn't, there's definitely some really good ones out there, especially ones that do a lot of game jams, something that, again, is really good from university is you're going to be participating in a lot of games with groups, so you can very quickly learn how you work and what other kind of people you like to work with as well. And to be fair, your first 100 games probably aren't going to be very good. They're going to be things like Canal Barge Battle Royale. So it's a really good place to kind of facilitate you getting all those ideas out and trying a lot of things. And if you do that and you get a course that has industry experts coming in and actual people you can network with and give you real feedback on that, you're going to fail a lot faster.
I just wanted to add, if you're already past the age where you've done your degree and you didn't do what he just said, don't panic, don't worry, because I didn't go to university for game development. Again, I just went in as a just generalist programmer. And then I spent some years in the medical industry programming, like I mentioned earlier. So like, even if you don't have those connections, even if you didn't go to the industry that does game jam, or the university that does game jams or anything like that, do not worry. Like, it's never too late. You're never too old. I hit a certain age and I was just like, okay, I think I should have maybe went into the game industry. Like that should have been the route I took. So I started doing that later in life, and it was fine. Like,
what was the realization that led you to that, if you don't mind me asking?
I started to become more and more senior at the medical company I was working at as a programmer, and as I got more and more senior, I realized I was good at my job, and I was learning a lot, but I didn't really have a passion for anything that I was learning, versus other people that were around who had been there for the same amount of time I was. They were like, they were going back from their hotel rooms when we were visiting a site and then reading medical books. And I was just like, I was going back and playing my Switch. Right? And maybe that should have been the first sign that maybe I was in the wrong industry. So I just, I didn't have those qualifications. So instead I reached out to, I live in Bristol. There's a local Bristol games community. I reached out to them and be like, what do I do? How do I break in? So it's never too late to start forming those connections, even if you missed out in the university years.
Yeah, there you go. And I guess also pay attention to the cues of, life and what you're going through, and decide if you're not enjoying your lifestyle and you want to sort of switch to making games. On this thing about connections, Taylor, I know you wanted to come in on this. What is, so assuming you've got, a path forward for making your game, I guess the next thing is to put it out there, get it in front of people. What tips or advice or suggestions have you got for that stage?
In order to get up, one thing we done was just go out and network. When there was one thing, when we were in uni, I remember one of our tutors was just like, you're supposed to spend about 80% of your time just finding friends and meeting people. And I was always thinking, what are you talking about? You said we got a pass, and now you're saying spend 80% of your time just mingling with other people. But it makes a big difference. Even just now, we were in a room over there, and a girl came up to us, asked us what we were doing, and I was like, oh yeah, we make games. And she was like, oh, okay, cool, let me follow you. I make music. And I was like, okay, cool. She was like, so yeah, if you ever need something for your music for your game, just shout me. And already, that's another connection. I've just heard Andres does, he's worked in the medical industry before. So it's just the more people you start pairing stuff together, and it's just okay, maybe he might know something about that, maybe she might know something about that. And then in order to get exposure as well, knowing those people, and when you're pushing stuff out, it's just being a bit more confident and pushing it to those people. I know you might think, what are they going to think about what I've done? But just push it out, because you never know what people are going to say, and the worst thing they're going to do is just not play it. You know what I mean? There's nothing bad about just putting it out. Negative or positive reactions as well. It's all what am I trying to say? It's all part of the greater goods. To kind of improve yourself, you need the negative and the positive to push forward.
Nice.
To sort of harp on that super quick, when it comes to personal networking as well, I think you hear the phrase being in the right place at the right time kind of thrown around a lot, but if you are everywhere, the chance of you being in the right place at the right time is a lot greater. So to everyone in the crowd at the moment, you are here, congratulations, you're doing an amazing job just by being here and chatting to people. You are already on the way to getting your career in the games industry just by showing up to an event and chatting to people.
Yeah, there was another way I heard that put once, which is, someone tried to dismiss someone's achievement as, they got lucky, but you can put yourself in the position to get lucky. No one gets lucky unless they take a shot, and you take more and more shots, and you increase the chances of that happening. So it's, you make your own luck in that way. Okay, let's talk a little bit about. So we had the how to succeed on Steam and do you still need to panel just a second ago, and there was a little bit of discussion there about building a brand around your project, your studio, your game, building a community. It's all sort of, without putting a label on it, building a brand or whatever, it's also building hype and generating interest. And that's crucial to actually taking the next step to success. if you want to sort of create a way to make a living based on this. So are there any sort of tips or suggestions or thoughts or platforms that people should be active on in that regard?
I feel like everyone just looked at me as the community manager there. Hello, it's my time to shine. Very different landscape with the indie scene. When it comes to AAA, if you're looking at a big shooter game, to build a community around that, immediately out the gate, you want to be getting people attached to the characters in your game. That's really powerful, because if someone sees a character from your roster that they can relate to and go, oh my god, that's me, which is like why having diverse casts across video games is so important. So having that whole part of the branding team out is really great. You're going to be wanting to make like tournaments and things around your game to keep the kind of hype up and to build the community and to maintain it while it's there. But for indie games, aftercare is super important. There are games out there that are made by small studios that essentially live or die off their community. Take, for example, Untitled Goose game. That came out a few years ago and was a relatively indie studio, and boom, it's now like, there's loads of memes about the Goose. I remember for a long time the internet was taken over by it, just because their whole ad marketing campaign was around little Goose making mischief, and that was a really fun thing that people liked. So in terms of, I'm trying to find a way to say this quickly, but if you've got a great game idea and you've made your game and you're trying to put it out there, try and pick one kind of bit from it, and I know we weren't saying settle on a brand too early, but make that your thing. Untitled Goose game has little goose that goes and honks around. Power wash simulator is you clean things, and that's the bit you use. So that in itself is so much easier for people to understand, and they'll remember it as the game where you wash things or the game where you play as a goose. If they can latch onto that part of your idea, you'll have a lot easier over time, essentially selling it. I never like saying selling games, but it's what you need to do.
Yeah, unfortunate business reality. Yeah.
I was going to say, for us as well, because we're relatively new, and I wouldn't say our games are going to be the best of the best at AAA standards. We knew coming in as 3 black game devs, it was an anomaly. You're not really going to see this, and we knew our personalities, we knew we were outgoing and stuff. And every time we went to events, people would always notice us and speak to us. So we thought, okay, we know we've got the games, but let's say that the game doesn't get enough attention. What's another way in which we can bring more attention to the games? And we thought, if we brand ourselves as well, then that's like a double whammy. It's like a double whammy. It's like, oh, we like the games and we like them. So people have 2 entrance points in order to kind of get to our games or get to us. And say they've played a game and they don't actually like the game or whatnot, they might like us. So they might just pay attention to us and follow our journey. And then that may result in them following our progress and then starting to play our games later. So it's for us, it's been kind of a 2-way street. And where we've come from a design background as well, we've kind of understood branding, and we're what we follow on social media and stuff, we're proper into how people brand themselves, whether it's in music, for example, there used to be world-star hip-hop, and you will see rappers document their lifestyle, and you might not even like their music, but you kind of like the lifestyle, you kind of just follow them, and then because you like them, you're should I try and like them? Let me give the music another go and see if I like it. And we played on kind of that, and I think that's kind of worked to our advantage as well. So yeah, when it comes to branding, we brand the game, but then we've also branded ourselves as well.
I'm not necessarily working in marketing and stuff, but one thing I have noticed about our marketing that I found really interesting, because it's kind of different than other non-game fields, is like the cliche, a rising tide raises all boats type of thing. I've been on panels with the power wash guy.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, he's great.
Panel wash guy.
Sorry, I forgot his name. Sorry. But I've been on panels with. There's a small team making a winemaking game that's really cool. There's a biology simulation game, and I guess my point is it's not, you would think those are the games of competition, but that's not the way we see it. It's kind of like a collaborative thing where we could come together and do something together and kind of cross-pollinate fans, because chances are the fans of our game might be a fans of the winemaking game, right? So it's a thing where it's just like we're helping each other out. We're creating content together. We're marketing together. And I thought that was very interesting, just because in other industries it would be a lot more competitive or almost antagonistic.
Yeah, or at the maybe sort of more pressured AAA end of the. Well, actually, that's probably not fair. I mean, I'm sure there are cases like that, but even at AAA, what I am so often struck about in the games industry is how supportive people are, even of their in theory rivals. So that's great. I want to talk a little bit about. Taking it back, I guess, to the actual process of making a game and building a game. Like, we've had your top tips for the next thing to do, but like during the process of building a project, what's a particular challenge that you guys have faced, maybe, that you'd like to discuss and sort of share a solution to? Or is there a particular moment during the process of actually building a game that you'd like to sort of talk about that you think was really educational in some way, that you think that people here could benefit from?
Got a bit of a top tip for this one. Stop it. Basically, like, it's so easy in the games industry to, because when you love playing games and you go home and you play games and then you're working on a personal project and you're making games, it's so easy to get massively burnt out, especially if you're working with a small team with your mates, and then you have to deal with the whole like, oh, so-and-so's not pulling their weight, or like, oh, I feel like I'm not doing as well in front of my mates. It can be quite a vicious cycle, and it creeps up on you very quickly. So my kind of like top tip for working on stuff like that is have a lot of off-screen hobbies. Like, do things that aren't just games, because they'll inspire you to inspire with ideas for your games. But like, I'm really into like Warhammer. I love painting miniatures. I love going skateboard and do stuff that's like not on a screen, just to kind of like keep that burnout at bay a little bit. That's my top tip.
Nice.
I think my biggest thing working at a small company now that I've noticed is because it's a small company, everyone knows everyone really well. Everyone's really friendly with each other. Everyone likes each other. So no one wants to tell each other no. And that's really bad, because it's like scope creep, right? It's like suddenly it's just like, my friend has who's a coworker who has this really great idea and he really wants to do it and he's really excited about it. Do you really want to say no to him and crush that idea? But fact of the matter is, we have a limited time, we have a limited budget, we have, limited everything. We can't do everything, even if it's a good idea. So like, I think my tip is just know your limits and know when enough is enough, and when and when you have to put your foot down and say, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, cool.
And I would say, well, as our team, we're still figuring out our limits and stuff as well. And one of our limits is, like, as you were saying, being a small team, that burning out. And we've all gone, like, we went through the COVID period. We had a lot of time to all work on the game, obviously, because we got furloughed. But as we've all gone back into work, it's like, okay, now we've got less time, so how are we going to make this work? And it's been like going to, I think last week we went to Google Black Founders Investment opportunity, and just being able to kind of mingle with different people and see how we might be able to get investment. We also have been going to different game studios and getting advice about how to do grants as well. So I know there's like the really creative side, but one of the main challenges that we found was like converting to the business side, and that's the side that you don't really want to do when you're coming into gaming. You're not thinking, let me figure out how to write a business plan. You're figuring out how to get your ideas and make the game. But if you want to make money, it's one of the that will allow you to keep going, or not always. If you're just doing it for a hobby, then of course you're going to do it regardless. But if you're looking to make it into a business, you shouldn't be naive and just think, this game's going to blow. Like, you've got to actually think, okay, this is actually a business. And there's things that happen, like, if it's a business, and as the business grows, as it expands, you won't be the person always doing all the ideas. So you've got to kind of bear that in mind and kind of know where you want to go moving forward. And I feel like once you kind of iron those things out and kind of understand who you are and where you want to go, it's a bit more smooth sailing, I would say.
All right, nice. I will open to the floor to questions in just a sec, because I'm sure there's a lot that you guys want to ask. So get thinking about that. But I think one last thing from me, like we've talked a lot about what you should do next if you're starting and making an idea for yourself. And I guess that actually going out and making a game is going to stand you in good stead wherever you want to go next, whether it's where you want to apply to a company or to get into a studio. But is there anything that you would say in particular to people who maybe want to take that route rather than sort of set up for themselves and make their own games and go indie? Like, what would you say to anyone who wants to apply to Creative Assembly, say, or like to another AAA studio?
Oh, the only reason I got that job is because I talked to people. I think, I know we talked a bit about networking earlier, but like to use an anecdote I was at EGX last year, and I ended up chatting with someone from Creative Assembly, and we got on really well, went out for a beer, and then afterwards, I caught up with him a few other times, and he just shot me a message out of the blue saying, "Hey, they're applying for this. People are applying for this role at the moment. I can give you an endorsement if you'd like to apply." And I went, "Okay, cool." And then got the job. It feels a bit surreal, but that wouldn't have come around unless I was out there talking to people, being really friendly and being really chatty. So it's a harder game for introverts, and I'm very aware of that. It's a lot easier to do, and that kind of thing can happen in an online space as well. But I think I know you've heard it probably 100 times already at this event, but just networking's a scary word. Just see it as going out and chatting and making friends with people, and then maybe down the line those friends will give you a job.
It's a really, really small industry. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is. Everyone knows everyone else, so be nice. If word gets around that you're not a nice person, word will get around that you're not a nice person. So be nice, talk to people, be friendly. And if networking is not necessarily a thing, that's not the end of the world. You can still get in through traditional means. I know, Auroch, we have a website, we have a careers web page where you could send an email with your resume and then go through the usual process. So, networking is not the end all be all, but I agree it's definitely probably your greatest
it's a good tool.
Yes, for sure. And also it's just nice. It's also just nice knowing you're not alone, right? It's always nice having people to lean on to as well.
For me, it's the whole networking thing. And if you find it challenging, like me personally, I'm kind of introverted. You might not think so because I'm up on stage, but I'm introverted. So if we're going to do networking for us, like today, colleague Max is here. I know if we're coming as a duo, it's easier for someone to approach a duo. So that's been a tactic. I don't really want to go on my own. Let me make sure I go with a duo. Or if I'm on my own, I was even talking to Max about this as well. It was think about what you're going to say. How are you going to get into the convo and maybe try and make it short? It sounds kind of silly, but sometimes I'm just okay, what am I going to say? Should I introduce myself and then say, what are you doing? Or it's those kind of things. And you just, as you push yourself into it, you'll realize that everybody else is pretty much the same as you. They're thinking, how am I going to talk? And then you just say something, and then someone's just I'm doing. It's just you've just got to try it and just be confident and go out and do it. And once you start doing it, you're just you kind of get a relief, and then they'll give you your business card or something, and you're thinking, yes, I finally got something, it's working. I've gone out, I've achieved something, I've gone out, I've achieved it, I've met new people and stuff. And the more you do it, you build the connections, and sometimes connections are just more valuable than money. And our accountant wouldn't like us saying that, but it's the truth. That's the truth about it.
Nice. All right, great.
Actually, one more thing before we get to it, I just remembered. There are entire organizations out there set up to help you network if you have trouble doing it. Like I mentioned earlier, Limit Break is a mentorship program. Just look for organizations that are set up to help, make those connections for you as well. If you're not comfortable doing the networking by yourself, you can always find something to help you.
What was the one you mentioned?
Limit Break.
Limit Break, yeah.
Yeah, it's a mentorship program specifically. But there's there's Pock and Play, there's Game Industry Gathering. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of the organizations that are meant to help rising people, putting people into the industry and setting them up for success.
Going to put a shameless plug for Into Games here as well. We run a Discord community of 6,000 people, and everyone is just really friendly and approachable. Everyone loves video games. Just get in there and start chatting to people. We also run a bunch of game jams. which are facilitated by like industry mentors. So you'll get put with a team of a bunch of people who you may know or you network to find in our server, and then you get kind of set up with an industry expert who then you've got a connection with as well. So you've got like a contact at some big studio now, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then, like it's just a really nice way online to make some friends and make some games.
Authors does something similar, is that right?
Oh, the Into Games Discord server, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I think.
All right, great. Can we get some questions from the floor then? If there's anything anyone would like to ask, just raise your hands. Yes, good, lovely. You were first, I think, in the second row with a scarf. If you'd like to go to the mic, please, in the center of the room.
No
and just
pressure.
speak. Isn't clearly into it. Sorry about that. And yeah, we've got some people on Twitch as well. I've got the chat right here, so if you'd like to ask anything, just type it in. Please.
Hi there. I've been flirting with the idea of producing my own independent video games on the side from my normal job. Apart from game development, I would like to know if any of you have ever gone to a publisher as an individual before, and what type of things did you have to have set up in place? Did you have to consider having your own company by that point? Did you have to consider having insurance? And what was the process of going through the publishing process like, and how did you keep control over your product once it was published?
Oh, I'll start.
I mean, the one here who I'm assuming has the most experience of this. Maybe.
Well, no, because we haven't gone through publishers, because we were working with like Apple and stuff, and what can I say? I'll say we had our whole business set up already, courtesy of Max's dad. He was like, if you're serious about it, set up your business. And then we got kind of, how we tackled it was we got our accountant, and then he kind of ran us through what we needed to do, what kind of stuff we need to get ready. And I think, kind of to answer your question, you don't always need all the answers. Like, if you go to the publisher and like you said, you don't really know what you need for them. If you go to them, I guarantee they'll tell you what you need, and then I think that's how we've moved forward. Like, we just don't know, and then we just put ourselves in a situation. They tell you what you need, and then you're thinking, okay, cool. How do I get that? Ask them how you get that. Oh, maybe you can go here. Ask this person. Ask that, and then I think it's just, yeah, man, it's like just breadcrumbs, just following the breadcrumbs and push it forward. Don't think you need to have all the answers. But yeah, if that's what you want to do, I'd say go ahead and speak to publishers and find out from them, because they'll be sure to give you all the information you need about how to be successful with them. That's what I'd say.
I think just like what we were talking about earlier about how everyone in the industry is just so kind. So there's no harm in going up to a publisher and saying like, hey, I would love to do a pitch for you, but I've not done one before. Like, what are you looking for, essentially? Like, and that almost gives you a leg up over the others, because they're going to be going, those are the people that really, really wanted in. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, a couple more. You sit in the front row. If you'd like to sort of follow, just please line up behind the fella here in the anorak, just behind the mic, and we can get this rolling. We've got one from Twitch as well. Which I'll ask in a second.
Hi. Okay, I can hear myself. It's a bit weird. So I'm quite interested in Orthors. I think it's a very cool company that you got there. I was quite interested to know what the future of Orthors looks like in terms of the kind of games you want to make.
So at the moment, we started off making games on the App Store, and then the App Store had like a lot of restrictions, and we didn't want any restrictions. So then Max here was just like, you know what, we're going to do our own thing, and we ended up making our own platform where we could push our own games, and the vision is to push black narrative-driven games on our own platform, and we also produce content as well. So marrying our games with the content is kind of a double-edged sword. And in the future, what we're looking to do is publish other games, but kind of highlight upcoming black devs and produce content around them, and kind of be a spotlight for, let's say, the black percent in the gaming industry. So if you want to find black content and black gaming, you can go to the Orthors website, and you can find everything from games to interviews with them and content around them. That's where we're looking to push in the future.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I actually was really interested in what one of you guys was saying regarding names and like lifestyles when you were talking about rappers. And what I always found interesting about the music industry is that we love names. We love hearing, oh, it's less about what this album is called, it's about who's making it. Do you see maybe the indie game scene in particular to follow that same idea? We start looking less at studio names and more developer names. And if so, do you think we need to, as game developers, expand that kind of personality a bit online and really start to make people remember our names?
Yeah, defo, like, that's one of the main things. Like, if we, like, one of my favorite games is Metal Gear Solid, and Hideo Kojima's behind it, but I don't really know much about him, and it would be interesting if he like had stuff about him where I could be like, oh, that's how he got into this, that's how he got into that. That really interests me, and I'm guessing it would interest a lot of other people. If you're really into a game and you get to find out about the creator and what they've done, as long as they make it interesting to you, I feel like it's a proper powerful tool. And I know like the stereotype is devs may be more quiet and they're into their games and that's how they work. But I feel like that's what we're looking to push on ours. Like if we can then speak to developers and kind of coax them out of that and actually be able to explore their personality, because they might be shy to speak to maybe a huge audience or something, but one-on-one, when you kind of just break it down and you're cracking jokes, I feel like getting that personality out will, again, help sell their games. And as indies are like, as kind of the indie movement is kind of growing, I definitely feel like shining the spotlight on the devs will be like really pivotal in them being able to grow even more as well.
Living in the era of the rock star developer.
Yeah, man.
I sort of disagree a little bit, only because I feel like games are this big thing that takes so long to make. You have people coming in and out from the same studio, and sometimes you'll have a developer that'll jump between 4 or 5 different studios over the course of a couple of years, and like that happens. That's pretty common. Like I said, it's a very small, intimate industry, so it's kind of hard to attach one name to a product. I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, right? Everyone knows like Hideo Kojima, et cetera. But like when you think of specific games, the first thing that comes to mind is the studio, not necessarily who makes them. I know as people who are in the games industry, we might think of specific people in the studio, but not the general population. And I feel like that's fair. Like I can't, I'm not gonna sit someone down with a giant book of like, here's everyone who's ever worked at, I don't know, Ubisoft, right? Yeah. Like that's literally thousands of people over the course of just one game. And not one person has complete creative control. So I don't know. I
suppose it's a little different at the indie side of the end of the spectrum.
Even in the indie side, like there's people going in and out helping with the studio. You have contract workers, you have people sharing ideas and stuff. Maybe if it's like a one-man team, then sure. But like if once you get to a certain point, it's a little harder to like attach one name to one product.
I don't know. Like I feel like if I was to say the name Toby Fox, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Undertale. Like it definitely can work. I feel like I'm very in the middle of you guys at the moment. Like it can work in some situations, and I think it's slowly making its way into the AAA scene. If you look at something like Fall Guys, the Mediatonic Twitter has basically made that game what it is. Like, and I've just blanked his name. I'm so sorry. The community manager that runs that is just absolutely working overtime. And if you know anything about that game, it's most likely, if not, you played it. Like it's the memes that get shared online for it, and that is sold pretty much by that one person. So it can work, but I don't think it's a flat case of like this is really good or this is really bad. It's just kind of each to their own, I suppose.
We're running up against time.
Oh, sorry.
we can't take any more questions from the floor, I'm afraid, but I did promise that I would ask the one from Twitch that's gone in. So, great talk, really enjoying it. Says, it's a crunchy nut. Thank you. What advice would you give to indie devs who are working on an especially ambitious project or genre, for example, an MMO? indie MMO?
I don't want to smash any dreams, but it's very easy to be very overambitious in your first title. It's always a smarter move to start really small and then scale up, rather than start really big and scale down. Like if you get a core idea that's really, really strong, you've got space to build on it as the project goes, but there's nothing sadder than having this amazing, huge scoped idea like building an MMO, but then over time you realize, I've got to get rid of that and that and that, and it can be quite like adds to the pile that's hard, like things that are hard to do in game development. So I don't want to be like don't, but like starting with a smaller scale is going to make a more polished finished product. Is what I'll leave that as.
Lean into your strengths. If there's something about your game that's unique or done really well or really great, focus on that. Don't try to like cram every feature in the universe into your game, right? If you're being ambitious, like identify, all right, these 3 things are the things that set our game apart. Let's focus on that. Everything else, get rid of it, chop it. Otherwise, you're never going to finish.
That's brutal but fair.
I'm so sorry. No, actually, no, I scrap that. Make it. Go ahead and make it right now. Like, I want to see it. Please do. There are smaller scale MMOs that absolutely work. So yeah, never like
Never
squash your dream down too much.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys, and thank you all for coming. Up next, and to close out the show, we have a fireside chat with Mike Bethel, no less. So do stick around for that, it'll be great. But give, please, a big round of applause to our panel. Thank you very much.